Have you ever ruined someone's life? Story 1. We had an employee whose entire job was to manage this spreadsheet. To help her out, I wrote a massive Excel macro that did her 8 hours of work in 30 seconds. Instead of finding something for her to do, the boss fired her, and I got Employee of the Month honors and a $750 award for saving the company money by eliminating her position. Edit by entire job. Every day, I replaced all of her responsibilities in totality with an Excel macro. She was replaced with a Control-G. Story 2. Possibly, I just resigned from my position at a nonprofit. An hour after I left, my supervisor was fired and escorted out. Had spent a year doing all sorts of low-grade harassment. My male coworkers weren't allowed to talk to me, but only I got in trouble for it. Wildly inappropriate jokes about bending me over and me told to my male coworkers while I was standing right there, constantly being accused of having office affairs with any of my male coworkers like that. But that wasn't what made me narc on him. I turned in my written 2 weeks to him, resigning for various polite bullshit reasons, because I just didn't want to work there anymore, partly because he was in fine. We go the executive director of the nonprofit, who is female. My male boss says she's going to yell at me and kick me out that day. So he should go with me in her office. I don't give a so. Fine. He comes with me. She's perfectly wonderful and nice as I resign to her. And she's like, "How long do we have you for?" And I'm very concerned with being professional. Said 2 weeks. My boss had full control over if they gave me those 2 weeks. He could have said, "No, I want Halabat Junk gone in 3 days." They gave him that choice. Instead, he told him his supervisor and the executive director that 2 weeks would be great. He then told me 3 days. He then told upper management that I was reneging my 2-week offer and would only stay for 3 days. He started telling the whole office, like, "Yeah, super unprofessional. She only gave 3 days notice. Upper management is so pissed," and following it up with, "What am I right?" like that. Except that I'm not a moron. So I catch on to what he's doing in a day. I make up my mind to bury this. Life makes it even easier for me. His supervisor wants to throw me a party. But she says, "You only gave us 3 days. I can't get anything ready." And I'm like, "Say what? I gave you 2 weeks, and we set a private meeting for my last day." I get very calm, controlled, poised when I'm well and deeply angry. So I wrote out my talking points and made outlines and carefully considered my word choices and made sure to dress extra professional my last day. I told her all the frankly illegal he was doing in the department, the stuff he was forging. I told her about how he lied to the staff constantly about where decisions came down from. I told her about how he kept everyone scared and isolated, and we would have blackballed for going above his head. I told her the shitty thing he was doing about my 2 weeks. And then, when I knew that was more than enough to get him fired, I got into the harassment. We go to the executive director. I go through everything again. Male coworkers get called down to be questioned if the things I say are true. They're all true, and everyone backs me up. I got 2 weeks of pay, another month of health benefits, and a lot of satisfaction. He got terminated on the spot. Was it life-ruining? Yeah, he just bought a big house, and now has a 3-year gap at his Ursum, and this nonprofit is super well-connected in town. So maybe TLDR if you persist in treating me like I'm stupid and helpless. I will total warrior when you try me over. Edit, thanks for the gold. You beautiful stranger, you. The reassurance of a random person on the internet is actually pretty life-affirming in this case, because ID never done anything like this before, and of course, a couple of people try to talk me out of it. Intentionally, I got the man who drugged and raped me when I was in middle school sent to prison for 12 years and registered as a offender. He couldn't get a job when he got paroled. And one day, I was out shopping and passed by a homeless man who yelled obscenities at me. It was him. He was jailed again, later, for stealing a slice of pizza and making his arrest record even longer. I was vindicatively satisfied. Edit, according to a police friend of mine, the second arrest was for the stealing. The imprisoning was for being within a certain distance of an elementary school. Story 3, I caught my boyfriend cheating on me with some girl. Later, he sent me pictures of her with her legs spread, and another with the most unflattering shot. I ended up making a fake email and sent them to everyone, including her mother. It was a small town. Story 4, there was this kid that always got straight as an HS because he cheated constantly. He got into Stanford because of it. He cheated off of me, and we got caught. Teacher thought I was cheating off of him, so I flipped. I was on the B line and got people in the class to take my side because every student knew he cheated. My teacher then told other teachers, so he got caught in every class after that. Didn't graduate and obviously didn't go to college. He deserved it, but I feel bad. Edit, he was a really smart guy. Came up with creative ways to cheat. If he had worked as hard studying as he did to get out of studying, he still could have gone to a USLA level school, but probably not Stanford or Ivy League. Stanford is weird about admissions, so you never know. Story 5, I once shot a man and tackled him and then made him sit in a truck on set for miles over a bumpy road. Then when we got to our destination, he was placed in a large cage, and I left and never saw him again. In fairness, though, he had just tried to lure my patrol into an IED, and we didn't have another way to transport him. Story 6 in high school. I met a girl and started hanging out with her. She expressed interest in me and told me the guy she was dating was controlling and abusive. She broke up with him, and I publicly talked about him without actually knowing anything about him. She was the first girl I'd ever been near, and I was crazy about her, and I thought I was just defending her against some. We started dating right after they broke up. He shot himself in the head less than 2 weeks after that, committing suicide. We dated for a long while after that, but the way she talked about him changed completely. So, some of the things I had said about him were most likely untrue. He took his own life, but I'm sure I made things shitty for him leading up to it. Story 7, don't know if this counts as ruining, but in the 10th grade, my good friend neighbor and I brought wine coolers to school. There were leftovers from a barbecue. Myself, her, and a good 3 to 5 other people would sneak and drink them throughout the day. During third block, I get called down to the office, and of course I'm freaking me out. The principal comes in and sits the empty wine cooler on his desk. By that time, I'm about to my pants. As soon as he opens his mouth, I panic and blame everything on my friend. I even wrote statements confirming what I said was true. I also ratted out everyone who drank, even those who took sips. We were all taken to get drug tested, and my parents were furious. Later on, after telling everyone that my friend was the one who ratted them out, not me, everyone stopped talking to my friend. She even got kicked off the soccer team. Soccer was the girl's life. The up part, my friend's mom was so mad embarrassed by her actions that she packed up and moved out God knows where, without a word to anyone. To this day, my old friend won't add me on Facebook or even answer apology messages. Story 8, I wouldn't say ruined, but I probably did accidentally scar him for life. During an art period in 3rd grade, my friend and I were just laughing nonstop at how funny our pictures were. He stood up to show off his hilariously drawn picture of something I forgot since this was around 20 years ago. I had the brightest idea of holding a pencil upright, and he basically sat down perfectly onto it, and the next thing I knew, he was screaming for his mom, and there was a pencil stuck in his, but surprisingly we were still friends until he moved to another school, but I don't think he ever felt comfortable sitting down anymore. TLDR, our friend sat down on a pencil that I put upright on his chair and pierced his butthole. Edit, sorry. Something came up at work, and I forgot to finish writing the sentence. LOL. Story 9, no. Your child cannot visit the museum by himself. No. You may not touch, try on, fake duel with the objects. No. You may not combine this coupon with all of those to get in for less than free. From their reactions, I would guess that I ruin people's lives on a daily basis. Story 10, I was young. My wife was home pregnant with her first child, and I was out late one evening getting her a drink from Sonic, which was one of her cravings. I should say at the time I was working a full-time job and going to school at night. So I was pretty tired. It was after 10 p.m., and I was waiting on traffic in a median to pull into the fast food place. All clear, so I started to go, and all of a sudden there was a loud bang and I black out for a second. It turned out that a guy on a motorcycle whipped out of the gas station next to Sonic, and I hit him on my way through. I blacked out BC to the airbag went off and knocked me out for a second. When I came to, I was rolling forward through the oncoming lane, and I saw sparks flying when I looked out my driver's side window. As the motorcycle skidded down the road, I put it in park, got out still dazed, and fell over. A bunch of people at Sonic ran over to me, and the guy on the motorcycle. Thing is, he had his kid on the back, about 15 to 16 years old. Cops got there, and they called life flight. I never saw the guy's motorcycle lights on, and when I saw going down the road, I didn't see lights on. I just didn't see him. I am pretty sure he didn't have them on, but BC, it happened so fast, and I was already dead tired. I can't be 100% sure. I got the usual breathalyzer and whatnot, which all came back negative. They both survived, but the kid was some big football star at the high school and probably would have had some scholarship line, but BC of the accident, he had to get some major surgeries and steel rods put in his legs. Nothing ended up happening legally as it was ruled an accident, and there was no follow-up. Just what I did to make sure they survived. And about the kid, he'll never forget the look that kid's grandpa was giving me at the scene of the accident when both his son and grandson were being picked up by life flight and weren't sure if they were going to make it. Story 11, I don't know about ruin, but certainly change. I've posted this before, but here is I kissed a girl at a bar one night. We exchanged numbers, and that was that. A week later, I was at the same bar, and there's this wasted guy acting huffy, and his friend were telling him to chill out. Didn't really think about it until I saw him walking towards me yelling gibberish. He reached out to grab me, and at the same time he walked in a bar stool, and I raised my arm fairly quickly to keep my distance, and he tumbles to the floor. His friends thought I punched him. They ran over and apologized and got him out of there. Turns out the girl was his girlfriend, and they broke up the day I hooked up with her, but they had since gotten back together. She then ended things after hearing he tried to attack me. So this guy thinks I hooked up with his girl, ultimately ended their relationship, and knocked him out in front of his friends. The dude hates me, I don't even know his name. Story 12, sort of, but the guy was pretty much on his own path of self-destruction, so I can't say I was totally responsible. However, my actions were certainly a catalyst. So, to start things off, I should say that I am a heterosexual male, and the incidents occurred during freshman year of college at a top 20 private university, not Ivy, but close. I had met the guy, who we'll just call Ben for anonymity's sake. During my first week there, he lived down the hall from me at my dorm. He seemed normal enough, as I had the naive assumption that because the university was so hard to get into that all of the kids there were of pretty sound mind. However, things got pretty strange with this kid rather quickly. First of all, I noticed his large assortment of prescription medicines. I didn't want to pry as to what ailment he had, but his eyelids were always half shut. He always had a mildly stoned expression and chuckled a lot. He was obsessed with working out and fitness and would often be seen doing jumping jacks outside of the dorm in the wee hours of the morning. Unfortunately, this kid became quite obsessed with me. It was kind of scary. Our dorm was very community-based, and my roommates would often leave the door open. Often, I would come home from class to find Ben sleeping in my bed. He would do things like find me in the library where I was studying and demand a lot of my time. At first, I was a bit annoyed by this, but I tried to be friendly. Things really got weird, though, once I started seeing a girl. Ben supposedly had a long-distance girlfriend at home. I thought he was straight, but he often hung out with other gay students in my dorm. I didn't make much of it, as they were nice guys with other heterosexual male friends. However, Ben would become enraged that I spent time with my girlfriend. If I did go out with her head, write me long, profanity-laced emails telling me how big of a piece of I am. I started considering letting my RA know about this, but didn't want to cause a fuss. The behavior, however, just became weirder. I'd constantly tell him not to go into my room when I wasn't there, but he'd always go in and tamper with my stuff. I'd continually find him asleep in my bed after class. The week when I finally reported him, he had slipped an Ambien into my soda and started peering in on mine in the bathroom as I was using it. The final straw was when he walked in on me as I was showering and tried to touch my penis. I had to punch him in the chest to get him to back off. As a male, I felt odd about doing it, but I finally reported him to my RA now. I didn't know exactly what would happen as a result of this, but the university has a zero-tolerance policy on harassment. He was forced to move to another dorm as a result. I thought that things would just resolve itself, and that the both of us could move on with our lives, but just got weirder. Not even a week after moving out, he was found standing out of the ledge of his window threatening suicide. He didn't jump, thank goodness, but his parents were informed. They finally withdrew him from the university. I never saw him again, as he never came back to the university, at least not in the 4 years I was there. To be honest, I didn't feel bad for him. I was glad that he went home, because he really crept me out, and it sounded like he had mental issues he needed to get worked out first. Story 13, when I was in high school, I was best friends with this guy who took photographs for the school newspaper. He was kind of lazy, a bit of slob, and a pathological liar, but he was fun to hang out with. That was until I witnessed him shoot a dog with a pellet gun. After that, the friendship was off. In a weird sort of way, he actually became my one enemy. I rode his mercilessly for the rest of our time in school, and so did all my other friends. Overnight, he went from a pretty well-liked kid to a complete social outcast, all because I saw him shoot this dog and decided that he was a total. I guess I was pretty popular because the change in my attitude caused a ripple effect throughout the entire school. Everyone either avoided him or picked on him ceaselessly after that. Heck, as a prank, would even leave rotting food in the shrubs at his house all the time that he'd have to dig out or live with the stench. Well, that was almost 30 years ago, and from what I hear, he's been unemployed for about 20 of those years, and is now a certified gun nut who still lives at his parents' house, spending all of his welfare money on collecting a huge arsenal. Maybe he had ended up that way anyway. But in a way, I kind of feel responsible for him being such a massive loser. I was one of his best friends, and I turned on him so harshly, and so suddenly it had to have hurt his self-esteem pretty badly. Did he deserve it? Yes, was it right of me to do? Probably not. One of my former middle school friends probably claims I did. I always hung out at Ms. house, since she lived like 4 blocks away, and she liked when I helped her watch her 4 younger siblings. I adore children, and her mom was always at workout. I would sleep over often because it was middle school, and that's what you did. Every once in a while, her mother would come home and act weird, smelly, funny. I was sheltered and didn't know what drunk was. Whenever this would happen, Em would tell me to go home since her mom was sick. This ritual of her mother coming home drunk occurred more frequently, until I started to worry. Around this time, Em throws a huge birthday party and invites just about every 7th grade girl to her house for a sleepover. Ms. Mom was her usual drunk self, and many girls decided to go home. I felt bad for Em and stayed with her. While talking to her that night, I found out that her mother was having Em drive her car home from the bars when she was too drunk, so she wouldn't get any more DUIs, and was 13. I was scared for her, so I did what I thought was the right thing and told the guidance counselor at my school. Ms. living conditions were investigated, and it was determined that they were unfit. M and her 4 siblings were put into foster care. When I saw her 3 years after the incident, she gave me the "you're dead" to me look. It broke my heart, and it still does. I hope her life is better and she'll eventually forgive me. Life is rough. TLDR, my middle school friend was placed in foster care because I cared about her safety. Story 14, yes. Although he technically ruined it himself, I suppose. Caught someone soliciting underage interactions via email and storing child abuse imagery at work. He ended up in jail with an indefinite sentence. Story 15, not exactly ruined, but I'm sure it has permanently affected her relationship. Dated her for over 7 years, and she dumped me out of the blue. No argument, little discussion, no options. 3 years later, she finally went public with her anniversary date with a new guy, now her fiancé, and it predated when she dumped me. I emailed her and asked her to explain. She replied with this: "That's not really our anniversary, but we are both so busy. He's not the reason we broke up. I know it seems sudden to you, but I never got over the argument we had months earlier." I'll quote this one exactly: "I miss having you as a friend more than you'll ever know. But I can see, even more so now, you're still angry with me. And that makes me sad for both of us." I waited a few weeks and forwarded the entire email string to her fiancé. I'm guessing he was as shocked as I was that their dinner celebration wasn't held on their anniversary, that he wasn't the reason we broke up, and that she misses having me in her life, and I'm guessing he will never trust her as much again. Story 16, I'm not sure. The kid moved away. The short story is that I was playing blocks with this kid I considered a good friend at daycare, and he got pissed over something and knocked me on the head with a block. Move. Right, so I grab another block and hit him on the head. It's fuzzy, but I don't think he got up right away, and I remember being brought into another room until the parents got there to pick him up. I never saw him after that. I assume brain damage or something. A small part of me suspects he may have died, but I was young, and no one's going to tell me because it was a long time ago, and even now, ITLL affect my psyche. A friend of mine raped an underage girl when we were in college. I didn't think it was the first time he had done it. She wasn't going to say anything, so I called the cops anonymously later that night. She talked to them. He was arrested. I don't know what happened after that because we lost touch. Hopefully his life was ruined. Story 17, what's interesting about this thread is that there are 2 basic themes: 1, malignant ruination of another life, and the tone is invariably one of pride. 2, non-malignant, often accidental, unknowing, or immature ruination of another life, and the tone is invariably one of shame. The commenters who fall into the first category scare me, except the guy who punished the dog shooter. Story 18, from my last year of high school, I was in foster care. This pudgy guy sat across from me in metalworking class, and he always creeped me out. One day, I'm working on a project, and I look over to our table and see him reading one of my social worker's letters. He had seen it sticking out my folder and just pulled it out and started reading it. I was so angry that I ran over and started hitting him in the arm and shoulder with a jewelry hammer. It was only 6 or 8 inches long, and the head was probably only 6 ounces, but still, it was a terrible thing to do. My teacher broke it up pretty quickly, and the only thing I got was after-school detention. The school knew my personal situation, and I had always been a good student, so they surprisingly didn't give me worse. That kid never came back to school, and I heard that he had given other students trouble before, so he was moved to a school for delinquents. I found out at the end of the year that he had been assaulted several times while at the school and eventually had to be removed altogether and be homeschooled. They were assaults. Story 19, I punched a kid in the chest who had serious heart issues. I didn't know prior to punching him that any strong force applied to his chest would cause him to pass out and have problems breathing. He goes to the hospital and for some reason leaves me out as the reason that he was sent there. He moved one day after, and I feel like the biggest to be the sole reason this guy moved away. TLDR, I am in. Story 20, don't know if it ruined his life, but my dad and mom were going through a long divorce, and one night he came in drunk, and he kept yelling at her to come out there to look at something on his phone, and he stood there and kept yelling. The next day was the first day of school, so I was trying to sleep. So I asked him politely to go to the couch and sleep, so I could get some sleep for the next morning. For some reason, that pissed him off extremely bad. He came running into my room, flipping things and screaming at me, like he was going to hit me. All the while, my mom had stepped out of her room and was filming him. She said my attorney's going to love this to him. And it set him off bad, so he comes over toward her. She backs up in her room. He says, I might as well just kill you now, and grabs her and jerks her into the floor. She starts screaming, call 911, call 911. So I jump out of my bed and run in her room. He heard my feet, so he let go of her because he knew if I seen him with his hands on her, it's all over for him. I tell her to call the cops, and wait, she did. Before the cops came, he was screaming at me, trying to scare me into not telling them anything, telling me he'll take my car, throw me and my mom out on the streets, that he'll lose everything, etc. I looked him straight in the face, and said, "I'm not scared of you. You're going to jail." So when the cops got there, I told them everything he had done said. And my mother showed them the video where it got him throwing her and saying, "I might as well just kill you now." He went to jail for domestic violence, assault charges. He was the owner of 2 corporations, but with me testifying and my mother's video, she broke the prenup, took everything he had, the corporations and all, and completely sold them. His life's work, gone. I haven't talked to him since, as there was a restraining order or no contact order placed between us. Oh, and I kept my car. It wasn't easy, but seeing him threaten to kill my mom while slinging her on the floor made my decision to testify against him a lot easier. He deserved it. Story 21 TLDR. A girl moved across the country for college, and I got her sent home a few days after arriving. Whoops. Story 22. My friend was hooking up with her boss on a consistent basis. Turns out he was married. He said it was just a green card marriage. His wife apparently thought it was a real, love marriage or whatever. Long story short, he gets fired, deported, and will never see his son again. Story 23. A few years ago, I was living in a pretty big apartment complex. I had just gotten home with my girlfriend from a long day of traveling, and we live on the 3rd floor. Taking the stairs up, we passed by the apartment directly below ours. Their doors were open, and there were probably about 30 people in there drinking, a lot of them milling around outside and smoking. It was about 11:30, not too late, and I wasn't going to throw a shit fit, even though these people were basically standing in our way. The guy who lived in the apartment was your typical dude bro who had more money than brains, and the money belonged to his parents. Well, they start playing loud music shortly after we get into the bedroom, and boy, did it travel. Not only that, but they were shouting back and forth doing that stupid WHO thing people who can't handle their alcohol do when they've had too much. And by around 2 in the morning, ID had enough. I never bothered telling them to keep it down. I just called the cops immediately. Now, this isn't a college town where this sort of thing happened on a regular basis. Sure, there's a college there, but it's not a big enough college that students even make up the majority of apartment complexes like ours. Most of the people that lived in our complex, including my roommate, were military, and they wanted some sleep too. Long story short, maybe 20 minutes after I called the police, there are 5 cop cars outside, lights on, and everybody at the party is getting busted for underage drinking. I never saw the guy that lived in that apartment after that. Not only did he go to jail, but he also got evicted. I don't know what happened to him, but I'm pretty sure that ruined his life. I don't feel that bad about it, but I do wonder if I should have gone down and asked them to keep it down. Story 24. I came pretty close. My boss at my previous job was just not ready to be a manager. She was immature, unprofessional, and inexperienced in the field we worked in. This led to a lot of really awkward conversations where you had to explain how a jet engine worked to your boss. She did 3 things that drove me nuts in the time she was my superior. First, she told 5 of my coworkers that they were laid off for the next 3 months as part of a joke that only she thought was funny. Next, she used someone's open computer to send his letter of resignation to her boss as a way to teach him a lesson. Finally, I got a new better job and quit. On my last day, they had to do an exit interview, and she was supposed to be there. Instead of face me in the exit interview, she scheduled a week-long vacation 2 days before and left at noon on Friday after telling everyone she would be in my 130 exit interview. The 8 months I spent working for her were some of the worst of my career, and I let the HR person already upset about her missing the exit interview know that. Then I told her about the 2 above incidents, which apparently never made it to HR, because she targeted new people who wouldn't know to go to HR or wouldn't want to make waves so early. From what I had from a friend a couple months later, she was considering resigning after HR questioned her and others about the incidents and reprimanded her for her unprofessional behavior. Luckily for her, she was close with the center manager and got away with just those reprimands. She stuck around and is actually doing better, so I guess I improved her life. Story 25 throwaway account here. When I was approximately 3, I was abused by my new stepdad after I told my mom. The police came, took a statement, he denied it, they did a rape kit. No evidence of rape. I went to a counselor, maybe once as a preschooler. Mom stayed with him, still married to him 25 years later. I blocked the memory for a very long time till puberty, actually, and had an odd childhood. To say the least, I had a friend who I played with, and looking back, I probably abused him if we hadn't both been kids, and him a willing participant, I assume. But we would kiss, roll around on the floor hugging, touched each other's parts, and I remember giving his pee-pee a few good painful squeezes a few times. I was very bossy, and I don't know if he was as willing of a participant as I was, though he seemed to enjoy it all like curious kids want to do, but I feel horrible as an adult. Basically, I don't know if I ruined his life, but I hope to God he doesn't feel like I did something horrible to him. Matthew, I'm really sorry if I ruined your childhood. Story 26 got my lawyer disbarred. Well, suspended from the bar seemingly indefinitely is more precise. I paid him in advance for my divorce. He did not show up when it was time to set child support. Got me straight screwed over that deal. I got the screwing of a lifetime. Not showing up is bad news. I wrote the Bar Association an email at 12 a.m., and they called me at 9 a.m. at work the same day. Had his license yanked within 2 days. He got divorced again from his new wife. Lost his house. Got arrested for some sort of divorce-related stupid. And was in jail when his hearing came up for review by the Supreme Court. Not sure what he's doing now. It made the local paper Des Moines, Iowa Register. He was driving a very nice SUV when I hired him, some kind of new Land Rover thing. Now at a rusty 1998 Dodge minivan. Did I ruin his life? Nah. He ruined his own. He had to repay the court the money he stole from me. I got some back from the Bar Association Victim Recovery Fund. And he can reapply in like 5 years. After he applies, if accepted to the bar, he has to work under a lawyer in good standing for another 2. Also, he has to do his continuing education the entire time. Story 27, I was in 2nd grade, and we had just came in from recess in winter. There was a huge ice chunk that took 2 hands to hold, and I don't for the life of me know why I thought throwing it toward the door would make it just harmlessly land back outside. While there was still a hall full of kids, but it didn't. Hit a kid right in the head and left an exact replica of the Harry Potter scar there. I still think about it once in a while. I'm 21 now. Story 28, during college, despite that I'm not very religious, I still went to church with my then-time boyfriend to support his beliefs. Despite his external Christian facade, he engaged in a lot of coke, drugs, and alcohol outside of it. He smoked about half a pack a day, too, and refused to even smoke when around any of his church friends. He hid a lot of things. He often would brag about how good he was about lying to not only his church friends, but also to his family and non-church friends. He later broke up with me because I wasn't Christian enough during this relationship, and after I had Bible studies with one of the ministers at his church because she was a sweet girl and religion fascinates me. After we broke up, I stopped going to that church, and the minister would ask me why I stopped going. I made up lie after lie because I didn't want to see my ex. Eventually, I got tired of lying to this really sweet girl and told her the truth about how he was lying to everyone in the church about who he was. He was the president of the church University Alliance, and so once they learned about this, he immediately was removed from that title. He went into a downward spiral that eventually led him to being kicked out of school. Because of shitty grades, he now works minimum wage and is dating a Muslim girl. Story 29, around the time Into the Wild came out, my friend happened to get this idea that he really wanted to travel to the Amazon on his own for some amazing adventure. He kept mentioning it, and one day I said, but you'll just get there and bump into loads of people who'll say, I saw Into the Wild too. I thought he had made a direct link between the film and his plans, but he got all offended that I was suggesting that his idea was just some middle-class, film-influenced fantasy. Man, he was definitely going to go before I said anything, and definitely didn't after I said that. Not that it ruined his life. I just felt like him for shitting on his dreams. Story 30, I had a crappy management job, and was supposed to be getting transferred to a different unit, but the company kept dragging their feet. So I came back from a 3-day off-site training with a couple of my employees and told my boss that I slept with one of the girls while we were away. I was married, and so was she, but we didn't sleep together. The plan was to get her absentee husband, who also worked for the company, to pay attention to her, and for the company to speed up my transfer to avoid problems with the scorned husband and I working in the same unit. It worked, but the girl's husband started causing issues for me. I probably should mention that I bought a motorcycle from the guy a few weeks prior, and was still waiting for him to find the title so I could get it registered in my name. I was so pissed that he was causing issues for me and wouldn't believe me or his now ex-wife about us lying about the affair, so I went full. I took the motorcycle, still registered to him and with his plates on it, and parked it all over town in handicap spaces and no parking zones, and then called the handy hotline to report the illegal parking. I racked up over 600 in tickets in his name over a single weekend, then returned the bike to his place at 3 in the morning and went home. Not only did he get stuck with the tickets, he refused to pay them, and it resulted in his license being suspended, which led to him losing his job, which led to him losing his house, and all because I didn't want to wait 3 more months for my transfer to be finalized.